Hi, I'm Kate Casper, Theogony editor. Theogony is our TC student-run media organization, and this is Behind the Headlines. This is the show where we talk to local journalists about topics relevant to our community. I'm here joined by Michael Pope of Virginia Public Radio and the Alexandria Gazette Packet, Missy Schrott of the Alexandria Times, and Vernon Miles of Alex Now. How are you all doing today?
Great. How are you?
Doing well. What was the sigh?
Long day.
A long day? Okay. I understand.
He cranks out like 20 stories every day.
Yeah, wow. I crank out like one a month, but it's whatever. Today we will be discussing the ACPS school overcrowding issue. We will also be talking about plans for the Innovation District at Potomac Yard, and finally the heated debate over the Seminary Road, the future of Seminary Road. So first, let's talk about school overcrowding. Yikes. So specifically at the elementary school level, I know we discuss a lot about the high school project, but I thought we would focus on elementary schools a little bit. So specifically the swing school for Douglas MacArthur and Patrick Henry. We have this new temporary campus at the old Patrick Henry building. How do we think this is going to affect traffic? I know they are planning, ACPS is planning on staggering the end and dismissal times by about 30 minutes between both schools, but obviously we can still anticipate a little bit of traffic and congestion. What do you guys think?
It's going to be madness. I mean, if you think about how difficult it is to get on and off the Beltway during rush hour, that's kind of what's going to happen around the Patrick Henry school area. And it's really going to take a deft touch to figure out how to get all those people in and out, like right around the same time. Because, I mean, if you think about any school, the drop off and pick up, for the morning rush hour and the afternoon rush hour, it can be really difficult under the best of circumstances. And so what you're going to have there is 2 drop-offs and 2 pickups right in that tiny little neighborhood area, which also, by the way, includes a recreation center that people are going to have to get in and out of. So, I mean, it could end up working well, but it also could end up being a really thorny traffic issue, especially in the rollout period, where like the initial few weeks could be very difficult.
Especially with the traffic circle they have planned for that, where it's like one group is going this way, the other group's going this way, and they're kind of like crossing each other. It looks like a big ballet when you look at the like city plans, where it's, yeah, I think that will probably take some adjustment for people to get used to when it starts.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The beginning's always the most difficult, but I think in this case, it's completely worth it using this school as a swing space because honestly, there's not really an alternative, and it's a creative use of space, and we don't see this all the time. So I applaud them for coming up with the idea and going through with it. And it's going to be difficult for students and parents at both schools, but I think in the end, it'll be worth it.
Okay, awesome. Next, ACPS has not followed through with some plans in the past or postponed a lot of their reconstruction and modernization efforts. How will this plan be different? Posing it to all of you. Mm-hmm.
Well, we've already seen plans, so hopefully they can stick to those. I know they have the rollout, I think it's 2023, correct me if I'm wrong, for that being the first school year that MacArthur will be back open again. So honestly, they kind of have to stick with that. Otherwise, we're going to have more delay on the fields planned for the Patrick Henry space, which I'm sure the students and parents would be upset about. I know whenever this swing space plan first came to light, a lot of people were protesting it because of the delay of those fields. So it would really be a shame if it went any further than it's supposed to. So hopefully they can stick to the plans that they have.
Crossing our fingers. Finally, about this topic, I thought that I would ask you guys, what do you guys think is the overall public opinion on this swing space concept? I know a lot of parents are very concerned about after-school activities, obviously the traffic, as we mentioned, but are there any other complaints that you guys are aware of?
Well, sports fields and traffic would be the key among them. Vernon was talking about the ballet. I mean, you really, this is a traffic operation the likes of which we have never seen, right? So it'd be really interesting to see how that works and whether it's smooth or not. You are essentially using sports fields for the construction area, so the quicker they get in and out of that, the better. Beyond that, I'm not really sure if there are any other issues that you guys have heard about.
I've got no idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of the heat died down since they first proposed it. I know we were getting a lot of people complaining to us whenever the school board first passed the initial plans. But whenever council passed the plan last month, there were almost no public speakers, and the few people who did speak were in favor of it. So I think those who were opposed with it have either simmered down or accepted that it's going to happen.
Okay, awesome. Next, let's talk about the Innovation District at Potomac Yard. Obviously, we've seen some plans. I know you wrote a story a little bit about the plans for the Innovation District. I'm wondering, what do you guys think are the pros and cons of this transition from a strip mall kind of vibe to a more destination site in Alexandria, Virginia?
I think one of the big things people have been concerned about with all of these like just multi-million-dollar projects and with all of the new development coming in and stuff like that, the main thing I heard everybody talking about is what's going to happen to the Target. And the Target's going to be gone in the new developments, this new stuff going to be there. But I've heard people on social media, like city officials and stuff, talking about, okay, the Target's probably going to be coming back, or some new iteration of that. It's probably not gone for good. And I think a lot of people look at their favorite stores around there, the Barnes and Noble, where you can sit in the corner and just read all day, or the PetSmart, and they're like, oh, these are going to be gone. Where am I going to get my stuff? And I think a lot of people miss that there's going to be new stuff coming in there. So yeah, we'll see. But fingers crossed the Target comes back.
Yes, I agree. I love my Target. Also, in addition to that, how do we think that this whole redevelopment project is going to affect the surrounding neighborhoods? And kind of like what you were talking about, the accessibility of these big stores that people go to.
I think it's going to be another traffic nightmare, especially during construction and then once it opens. So hopefully they have some plans to mitigate that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the people who moved into that neighborhood, it's new enough that they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. They knew a metro station was coming. Granted, no one could have known that Amazon or Virginia Tech were coming, but it's kind of an added bonus that you're going to be living right next to this walkable mixed-use community. There's going to be new restaurants. They're trying to make it more of a destination, like you said, to go to at the nights and evenings. So hopefully the benefits will outweigh the traffic and everything else that comes with it.
The other thing that people in that neighborhood are going to have to contend with are the parking permits. There's been a lot of discussion among a lot of the local neighbors there about whether or not some of the residential areas near there get residential parking permits, because it's not always a sure thing. And it's not always sure whether the people that live there actually want that, because that puts people coming over to visit in a difficult position where it's okay, you can only stay here till 11, then you get towed, stuff like that. And so I know a lot of the residents around there have been very vocal and have met with Justin Wilson, for example, to kind of talk about trying to figure out what they're going to do with the residential parking permit, because a lot of it's commuter parking as well. That's what they're concerned about.
You know, one thing that I find fascinating about the history of that land where the strip mall is now at is that it used to be this large rail yard, and the rail yard closed, and so there was this debate about what do you do with that space. It eventually became this strip mall. But before that happened, there was this huge and intense debate about overdevelopment. And you had people running for city council saying, hey, let's not overdevelop this. And so then there was this potential that it could be a football stadium, and so they ended up adding density that they really actually did not want to add. And so they ended up as this compromise that no one was really happy with the strip mall. So the funny thing about that is, back in the early 1990s, the conversation was overdevelopment and let's not overdevelop. Now the conversation is, can we get a metro station, and how tall are the buildings, and is it going to look like Roslyn? And so, I mean, it really is interesting if you think about how that progressed over that 30-year period.
Yeah, totally. And I guess what I'm kind of wondering is, what's the timeline for this project? I mean, it's a huge project. Considering how Potomac Yard looks now, I can't even imagine it looking like Roslyn, even in a decade.
Well, one thing you have to remember is the first thing that's going to happen is the part with the movie theater. So people you think about the Target and the strip mall, but that's actually way down the line. Right. In fact, no one really even knows when that's going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is the movie theater and the parking lot around the movie theater, and that's going to become the Virginia Tech graduate campus. And so your question about timing is also on everybody's minds, because people are going to wonder, when is that Target going to be demolished, and when can I go for the closeout sale?
Awesome. Okay, finally, let's talk taking back Seminary Road. Obviously, we've seen the signs, we've seen the bumper stickers. I get a little bit heated about this, but obviously the damage has kind of been done. How can we reverse it? Should we reverse it? How can we take back Seminary Road?
I would argue that the damage is not done yet. And I want to bring up Amy Jackson, the counselor who at the legislative meeting this week brought up to counselors, let's rescind this decision. Let's take away the road diet and put it back to how it was. And the counselors were heated. They were very upset that she sprung this at 11:30, I think it was, on a Tuesday night.
See, I don't think it's fair for you to bring up Amy Jackson at the last minute without consulting
Yeah,
with
you
some
didn't
of your
consult
other,
me. I didn't
some
hear
of your
about
other
this in
people. It's
advance.
not a
You should
fair
have told
thing
me
to
about this in advance.
This is literally Tuesday night. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if they're going to have the discussion, they need to have it soon, because from my understanding, enough construction has been done that the road is changed, but they're going to be putting in, I think it's $1 million sidewalk project if they get money for it. I think they're applying to some grants right now. But if they get that, that's going to be kind of the point of no return. So I think if they need to make a change and if they vote to take it back, then they're going to have to do that sooner rather than later.
You know, one thing that's really important to think about in terms of whether or not people are going to take back Seminary Road is that it was a 4-3 vote. And so in order to rescind that or reconsider it, what you actually need is one person to change their vote. And so of the 4 people that voted in favor of the road diet, so far there has been no movement and no hint of any movement.
I think Dell's the swing.
Del Pepper would be considered the swing vote, yeah. So, I mean, the real question is, can those neighbors in Seminary Hill who hate the road diet, can they persuade Del Pepper to change her vote? And if they can, you know, perhaps they might be able to do something about that. Although, as you point out, that all of this has basically already happened already. I mean, like, in order to change it back to the way it was, might not be quite so easy.
Del was suspiciously quiet during that debate,
I
so we'll
noticed
see.
that.
We'll have to see.
Okay, well, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, and have a good one.